Now, there are many people who have helped the royal family out over the years. There have been, for example, billionaires with Tuscan villas who are willing to allow an HRH to soak up some sun on their dime. There have been plenty of aristocrats who are willing to marry off their most lovely daughters, and also members of the horsey set who have kept their mouths shut about King Charles's terrible post-port jokes. So can we add Meghan Markle's name to that list of royal favor doers? Oh no, friends, don't worry. I have not been inhaling too much of the pre-coronation hype at all. Instead, this is a question that has been posed by the latest interview that was given by Scooby, Meghan and Harry's biographer and most energetic supporter. Old Scooby-Doo showed up on UK breakfast television this week to update everybody on how things are going for Prince Harry ever since he went on that truth-telling spree earlier this year. I'm sure none of you are going to be shocked to learn that relations sound like they aren't going very well. Scooby-Doo has said that Harry had contact with Charles, which to me sounds a lot more like a prison visit than any kind of nice family moment. And then he got around to talking about Meghan and discussing the fact that she's not going to show up at Saturday's coronation. Now, according to Scooby-Doo and other reports too, the biggest reason is because that same day Prince Archofficial turns 4 years old, and that's a justification that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then came my favorite part. So according to Scooby-Doo, Meghan has also made the choice to skip the event because she is aware just how much of the spotlight goes on her when she sets even a foot near the story. He said it's portrayed as intentional. Should she come over and just stand next to her husband, the commentary and the narrative of the day would have been very different. Okay, Meghan. So interestingly enough, in a report that was done by Victoria Ward in The Telegraph, it claims that the reason why Meghan is not coming is that Meghan and Harry were aware that Meghan's presence at the coronation could have proved controversial and were keen to avoid attracting negative attention. Oh yeah, you know that Meghan. She's always trying to avoid the spotlight. She doesn't want to stir up any controversy. Are we talking about the same Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex? She who did that Oprah Winfrey interview, really? This same woman who helped to make a 6-hour TV docuseries that was mostly about how horrible palace life was? And since when did Meghan Markle try to avoid making waves to the royal family? Since when did they start prioritizing what was actually best for Buckingham Palace? So alright, to be fair, it wasn't Meghan herself saying this directly, but these are a couple of sources who regularly seem to bring down the word from the Mount of Montecito. Now clearly there is some truth in the fact that if Meghan came, a lot of media coverage would be focused on her. People would be talking about what she was wearing and looking horrible in, how she was looking at the Wales family, how she and Harry were grabbing onto each other like they were about to drown. I mean, alright, to be fair, I guess if the former mattress actress made the trip back, it would have set off a little bit of a tabloid storm. But come on, Meghan is dreaming if she thinks it really would have knocked Charles off the front pages. Meghan at the coronation would have provided a pretty interesting circus of the never-ending Sussex versus royal family melodrama. But if Meghan really believes that the king and queen would have been at risk of missing out on the top spot in the news because she showed up, yeah, she's crazier than we thought. It's not like their presences at the Queen's funeral managed to steal the show or obliterate any interest whatsoever in the real story. Did she forget all of that? And this argument that Meghan doesn't want to upset the apple cart doesn't make a bit of sense when we consider that Meghan not going is actually a more controversial headline-making story than her showing up just looking nice and playing nice. Would attending the coronation have been an especially fun experience for Meghan? Well, probably not. Anybody who believes that experience would have been enjoyable for Meghan is more insane than she is, or maybe they've been hitting the gym a little too hard. Another question I have is, since when did being a member of the royal family mean that you could just pick and choose the events that you think are going to be fun and skip all the boring, unpleasant stuff? If that were the case, I don't think there would be a single HRH willing to launch a lifeboat in Blackpool, for example. This coronation is by far the most important event in 70 years for the monarchy. And let's remember, this is the same institution that Meghan doesn't really seem to want to be a part of. But ironically, it's also an institution whose perks, and I'm talking about those titles, Meghan seems more than happy to hang on to for herself and her invisible children too. See, when it comes to making money in Hollywood, those titles are certainly their biggest and some may argue only selling point. And if Meghan and Harry want to hang on to them, why should they get to be selective about when they show up and show that they actually support the royal family? So that same Telegraph story reports, friends have said she sees her life and her future base in the US, and that public events in Britain have waned in importance. Well, alright, if events in Britain have waned in importance, then why is Meghan still so desperately holding on to that British title? How in the world can Meghan and Harry credibly keep using those titles if the UK no longer registers as important? Honestly, I think Meghan and Harry could give an entire class on how to have your cake and eat it too. Scooby-Doo, in his interview, also said that Meghan decided not to show up for the coronation to protect her peace. Alright, so I'm not trying to say that anybody should have to sit through a damaging experience. But seriously, would sitting a pew or two away from her in-laws while they ignore her have been so horrible for Meghan? If she's worried about interacting with William and Catherine, well, she doesn't need to be. I don't think there would have been a single glance or word shared. And also, let's remember what happened during the Jubilee and the late Queen's funeral. Meghan's very aware of her facial expressions, and she's not going to look bothered. Even if the 40-something-year-old didn't want to go, what about Harry? Harry is now going to have to face his family all by himself without any kind of emotional or personal backup. There is only so much cheery talk about the weather that Mike and Zara Tindall are going to be able to make with Harry, as he sits stuck in the enemy territory. And meanwhile, while all of this has been happening, the King, the Queen, and William and Catherine and their 3 gorgeous children have all been photographed at the Abbey for a coronation rehearsal. So next time they're all together, it's going to be for the real thing, with everybody in the world looking at them, and Harry will be there left on the sidelines. It's going to be a long, interesting weekend of history making and TV hosts. Let's remember, it's important to stay well rested, stay hydrated, and please stay alert for whatever kind of mischief Louis has planned. And if Anne ever decided to go on I'm a Celebrity, I think we know she would be the winner.